Hello everyone, and welcome to my Spiral Opus guide for version 2.1. So going into the first half of Chamber 1, we have several treasure hoarders and Nabushi. I typically go after the treasure hoarders that have range because they will tend to not want to gather, and so to do better AoE damage, I charge attack them towards the middle so that I can Zhongli petrify them, and then GOMC ult. I suggest you using an animal character if you have one. I use here just for grouping purposes as well as AoE damage. The next wave is also pretty similar in design with treasure hoarders and Nabushi again. However, these will all rush attack you, so you don't have to worry too much about grouping, and you can just use whatever main means of AoE that you have to take them all out. The second half is much more annoying design because it features the Spectres, a new mob that was added with version 2.1. Spectres are notoriously annoying because of the fact that they float above the ground and can often dodge damage because of how high their elevation is. Particularly for this floor, I target the storm, the Eye of the Storm first. This is due to the fact that Eye of Storm has a higher health pool than the Spectres. When the Eye of the Storm initially goes up into the air, I will then start targeting the Spectres. You'll notice that anytime you attack a Spectre, they'll always sort of move backwards, as in reaction to the damage taken. By exploiting this, you can actually move them into a line kind of setup, and then make them move back in the same direction. That way you do better AoE damage to all of them. I also suggest taking out the Spectres first, even though you target the Eye of the Storm first, because of the fact that Spectres have a 1-second delay before they're officially taken out, due to the fact that they have sort of a blow-up mechanic. Also for the Eye of the Storm, there is a way to take out of certain modes using a Catalyst or Bow user, so just having one or the other. Otherwise, it will stay stuck in its sort of Storm Cage mode for a while, losing you time on this floor. Similarly, the second wave can be handled using the same tricks for the Spectres that you used in the first wave. Moving on to the second chamber, you'll see Magu Kenki feature his return. Similarly, like the last Spiral Opus, he has around 1.3 million HP, so he's a major DPS check. In terms of positioning, you'll always want Magu Kenki's back towards the stairs. The reason for this is because when Magu Kenki dashes back, he'll get stuck on them, causing any further dashes from him to basically keep him motionless. He'll be stuck in the same position. Again, iframes through the use of bursts for dashes are extremely recommended in terms of using them here, because of the fact that Magu Kenki's attacks do major damage. If you had no problems doing the last Spiral Opus with regards to Magu Kenki, you shouldn't have too much trouble here either. The second half of Chamber 2 features a Cryo Assistant Mage along with a Mirror Maiden. I actually suggest attacking the Cryo Assistant Mage first, because the Mirror Maiden will actually teleport after you. This allows you to get major AoE damage in, as well as kill the Cryo Assistant Mage first. The Cryo Assistant Mage is actually more annoying than the Mirror Maiden due to the fact that she has essentially a regenerative shield as long as her assistants are alive, as well as freezing you occasionally with the help of Mirror Maiden. Taking out the Cryo Assistant Mage, all you then have to do is bully the Mirror Maiden until she dies. Also, keep in mind that the Mirror Maiden can no longer be CC'd once the seal that she creates has been tagged onto you. The first half of Chamber 3 is actually pretty trivial. You only have to take out 2 Ruin Guards. You want to take them out as fast as possible because the second half is where you'll waste most of your time. Taking these guys out should only take you at most a minute. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty difficult for you to ensure that you get a 3-star clear on this chamber. The second half of Chamber 3 features a perpetual mechanical array, which has allegedly 2.2 million HP, with an even higher DPS check than Magu Kenki. This boss there is a way to glitch this boss by opening your map, waiting 20 seconds, and then coming back into the abyss. You won't lose any time for this, and additionally, the array will go into its second phase almost immediately. This will then give you, after you destroy whichever one of the Ruined Sentinels has a ring around it, 20 seconds of vulnerability in which its resistances are decreased by 50%. Now, this may not be the strategy that you'll go with to increase your DPS. I didn't go with it because it's not intended behavior, but it's just for those of you that don't know it exists. Anyway, this boss is just a smackfest. One of the main tips I can give is that the Perpetual Mechanical Array will designate a Ruined Sentinel type to be the one you need to destroy in order to trigger its vulnerability phase. So far, the ones I've encountered being the marked one are the Jellyfish and Snake. If it's a Jellyfish, it's going to be much more difficult to actually defeat than the Snake because the Snake has a lower base HP than the Jellyfish Ruined Sentinel. Other than that, this is just hopefully your team has enough DPS to actually destroy this Ruined Sentinel in time, because 2.2 million HP is nothing to scoff at. Here are the builds I use for the Spiral Abyss. As you can see that you'll see in a moment that not all of the sets are optimized in any sort of way possible. I think that should be clear from the fact that I'm using a level 50 Chongyun and a level 50 Diona. You don't need to have fully optimized supports in order to actually 36-star Abyss. It's perfectly possible to do it without that kind of power in the team. It'll make it easier, of course, to have better artifacts and better levels and better talents and whatnot, but you can still do it without having such a strong team. I think I also like to point out the fact that I actually have other constellations available for Xiangling, Sucrose, and Chongyun that I have not used at all. This actually probably would have increased my time significantly, but for the sake of more free-to-play friendly content, I did not actually use them. Hopefully that gives those of you that are, you know, struggling with the Abyss some hope that you don't actually need fully constellation characters in order to actually 36 star the Abyss. Hopefully this guide was somewhat useful to those of you currently struggling in the Abyss. My name is Tersplamel, and I'll see you guys next time.